Hi everybody, this is Kevin, and tonight I'm doing another Zoom chat with the lovely Liz Housden. Hello Liz, how are you?
I'm fine, Kevin, thank you very much. Yes.
Good, good. And yeah, did you have a good Christmas and New Year?
Yes, it seems to have gone by fast, doesn't it? It's gone suddenly, and I mean, I suppose Christmas is always like that, but very odd about it all this year, I think.
Absolutely,
hasn't it?
absolutely. One thing I will say to everybody that's watching is that Liz has got a problem with her internet, and it's a little bit in and out, a little bit buffering. So we're just going to see how we get on, and hopefully it'll be okay. It'll be good enough. So Liz, can we start? You very kindly sent me some information, because you are a hugely talented lady, if I may say so.
Well, thank you.
But we'll get to all the things in your career and that in a little while. But what I like to try and find out is a bit about the person behind the name. So we've just found out you're Elizabeth Housden, but we all know you as Liz.
Yeah.
But can you tell everybody,
Right,
Liz, where you were born and where you were brought up and things like that, please?
Right, I was brought up on the Isle of Wight. So I lived there with my parents until I left and went to drama school when I was about 18. And I didn't live there again, but except to go and visit them. But the island has always been very, very special to me. It's a very special place.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Wonderful place for children to grow up in, then and now, in fact, actually, and have holidays. It's old-fashioned, really, such as buckets and spades.
Yeah, of course. But your parents, your mother was a famous artist.
She was an artist, yes. Primarily a portrait painter. She trained at the Slade Art School, and that talent has been handed on to a couple of my children, my younger daughter and my elder son. And my elder son uses that in his career. He's a set designer. Set designer,
that's right, yeah. So from going from the Isle of Wight, and you left home, you say, at the age of 18, where did you go then? Did you go into university, or what did you do from the Isle of Wight?
I went to drama school.
Oh, you went straight to drama school.
Yes, I did. I had a year or 2 years, I think it was, doing dance and drama, and then I went to a drama school.
Okay, all right. And that led you.
And I decided I was going to do that from when I was this big.
All right. So you knew exactly what you wanted to do.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
even when I was small.
Even when you were small. And your father's friend was, or your father had someone that was famous was it in yachting?
Yes, Arthur Fox. Yes, they were great friends, and my father actually originally was his bank manager, which was a nightmare. But he was a lovely guy. I mean, and yeah, Arthur taught me to sail, and we were often in his house, and we knew him really well.
Okay.
He was a special man.
Yeah. So you went into drama school, and then you progressed on to into the theatre, didn't you?
Oh yes. I worked in the professional theatre I've worked there on and off for years. I mean, and at the moment, as I think you've probably noticed, nobody's actually doing any work.
No, it's tough.
Which is definitely sad. But later on, I formed my own theatre company. That was about nearly 20 years ago now, and that was a challenge, and that's been great fun too.
So tell everybody, what was your first professional role in the theatre?
Well, I was the first professional role, which means I was paid. I was 3 and I was a rabbit. Yes, that was my first professional role. I was a rabbit, and I refused to have my face painted brown like everybody else. And so I was the only white in the whole shebang, really. And I got sort of started billing straight away. I remember it. I can remember the occasion as clearly now as it was as if it was happening to me. And I remember they stood me on a box and tried to paint my face brown, and I said, no.
But you weren't the rabbit. You weren't the rabbit. So
I was the white-faced rabbit.
White-faced rabbit. So you said you attended drama school.
Yes.
And you did arts and things like that, and you went to RADA. So is that
Yes.
where you were at drama school? That was RADA, was it?
I did dance and drama at Arts Education, and then later I went to RADA. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But then from moving on from that, I think you then were a model. So was that straight after coming out of RADA?
Yes. Like anything else, you know, I mean, young actors don't get too much work to begin with unless they're very lucky. Even then, it's the same today. And my aunt, my father's sister, was a big noise in the fashion world. And so she got me the job as a fashion model, and I did a lot of work for some of the photographers. Yeah. And
I believe, fun. Yeah, I bet, yeah, you would have met some incredible people.
I'm telling you some stories about that, but I'm not.
But you also became a model for someone quite famous, didn't you?
What do you mean, as a photographic model?
Yes, to do with makeup.
Oh right, yes. No, I was one of the models for Mary Quant makeup. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sort of thinking back, and I'm sort of trying to, because I know roughly your age, which I'm not going to say, but would that have been around the time of Twiggy and people like that?
Yes, it was. Yeah, exactly so.
Because you must be of a similar age.
Yes, I am.
And if anybody wants to find out about it, they can Google it. They don't.
Of course I can. I don't care. There we are. But yes.
It's just a number, isn't it? It's just a number.
It is. Yes. No, I was a contemporary of Twiggy's. Yeah.
So meeting people like that and knowing what happened to Twiggy with her career and subsequently going into TV and things like that, you know, that must be fantastic to know that these people have done that and you met them.
Yes, I mean, people who've worked in the theatre and been models. Yes, it's always good to know what they're doing now, and yeah, even though I don't keep in touch with many, it always, I said, oh, good, she's still acting, or whatever it is. It's
yeah. Got to keep going, Liz. We've got to keep going. As best we can.
Will keep going as soon as they let me get back on the stage again, Boris.
And so from your modelling, you did various professional acting roles from pantomime to Shakespeare, didn't you?
Yes.
Can you tell us some of the things that you've done?
Well, Shakespeare's been a passion of mine ever since I was really quite a small child. And so I've done quite a lot of Shakespeare, I'm very, very glad to say. And I've played Portia and Lady Macbeth and Catherine the Shrew, that's great. A lovely role of that.
And during while doing these plays, who else would you have acted with on stage?
Oh, well, lots of
people. I suppose it's one of these things, isn't it? You know, how many do you want to be told about? It must be loads.
Quite a few, yes. yes, it's always good to know that, and of course, people before they were well known too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
you
of
know,
course. Did you have
you know.
someone that was your favourite actor to play alongside?
Oh, me personally.
Yeah.
I can't think of anybody. I mean, there was a lot of people who are lovely, lovely people and are very difficult to work with. And I'm sure it doesn't matter what job you're doing. You could be, you know, serving in a shop. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do. You will always find there are some people who are easy to get on with and others who are not, you know, when you're, you know. So, it depends, and some people drive you around the bend, and sometimes you're in a show and people sort of, and there's some people who are very naughty, people like Laurence Olivier, for example. He was always being naughty on stage, trying to make people laugh, which is called corpsing. And it's called corpsing because if you laugh or come out of character, the character dies in effect, and it's just you giggling stupidly or whatever it is you're trying to do. And it's, you know, I mean, and if you get the giggles on the stage, it's a nightmare because you're really quite keyed up about the whole thing, and so it flips from one emotion to another very easily. And yeah, so. No, there are some actors who are a nightmare.
So would you have done those sort of things then while you're actually performing in front of a live audience, or was it just doing that in rehearsals?
Oh no, they'll do it to you in a live performance.
Oh, and of course, if you're going to slip out of character in front of a live audience, that is not great.
No, it isn't, and you hate them forever afterwards. I mean, you know, you come off stage, and you say, "What are you doing to me?" Yeah, and then they all think it's terribly funny, and it's not actually.
No, not at all. I would, you know, because obviously, you know, I've seen these actors on stage and in films and things like that, and you always think that these people would be so professional in the way they conduct themselves, but to hear that from you is astounding, really.
Oh no, it doesn't happen every show with every actor. I can promise you. I mean, some people are a nightmare, and when you know that you're going to be acting with them, you think, oh God, no, not again. But anyway, you know, we have to overcome it somehow, and we do. But
so if you're
leaving props off and things like that, and
right,
a line, and you know, you come on to say a line, and whatever you've got to say a line about, you suddenly realise the stage manager hasn't put the bloody thing on the table or whatever it is. And you think, what am I going to do? And things work, and your wet brain, and suddenly you just cut out that line and go on to the next thing. And sometimes you have people in the wings saying, "It's not on that table," and you say, "I know, yes, and then you go on. But yeah, no, luckily it doesn't happen too often.
So if you've got a part in one of these big productions and things like that, how long are the rehearsals for these shows, and especially with something to do with Shakespeare?
Yes, I mean, it depends. I mean, it depends largely on the budget you have and where you're going to be rehearsing, and when it could be anywhere. You know, shows that go on, for example, in Chichester, shall we say. Probably a lot of the rehearsals will be in Chichester, but also there will be others that are in London, and then they move it down to Chichester about perhaps 2 weeks before the show goes on to actually work on the real set and things like that.
Yeah.
But there are some things you just rehearse in sort of village halls and just rooms that people can get hold of.
Okay.
And there are special rehearsal rooms in theatres. I mean, the big theatres have their own rehearsal rooms.
So what? So you performed in theatres and that all over the country, and even across the world. I'm guessing.
Yes.
And have you got a special one that you really love to go and act in?
I'm very fond of the Old Vic.
Right. Yeah.
And there are one or two small theatres round about that are good fun. The first time I was in a show was the Marlow Theatre in Canterbury. I think it's had a lot of refurbishments since that. But it's again, I'm very fond of it. Really, there's something there that whenever I go there, and I think I'm here. It's nice. It's just such fabulous history, and no, and it was, of course, originally the National Theatre.
Yes, of course.
Before they built
Yeah.
one.
I think the first theatre I ever went to was when I was a little boy. My mother used to be part of one of the local stall ball teams, and they had a coach trip to London, and it was to the Garrick Theatre.
Oh yes, yeah.
And it was oh gosh, Brian Ricks in Stand by Your Bedouin.
Oh yeah, good old Brian, yeah.
And it's funny, I can remember that. You know, it was just a strange thing. It's just one of those memories that is stuck. You know, going to the Garrick Theatre and seeing Brian Ricks.
But I think people do. I mean, you see, theatre is magic. It's supposed to be. And if that reaches out to people, particularly young people who've never been before, I mean, you take young children to the theatre and they are entranced. I remember my elder daughter, when she was about 4, we took her to a pantomime somewhere or other, and she liked that. What she didn't like was when they took her to see me pantomime, and I was the witch or something like that, and she didn't like that at all. She didn't like that. My mum is very lovely, and burst into tears, and then in the middle of the show, you know, she didn't like it. So you have to be careful what you choose to take your children to see if you're actually in something. I think that.
Yeah, of course, of course. But you touched on just now that you formed your own theatre company, and how did that all come about?
I just suddenly thought that it would be quite a nice thing to do, and we decided, the people who started it with me, that we would take theatre back to its roots, because theatres, you know, didn't really start in purpose-built buildings, even in Shakespeare's day, although that was, you know, there were theatres, as you know, then, and our present wonderful Globe is a copy of the original. But it used to be, I mean, before Shakespeare was born and all the rest of it, I mean, it used to be just performed on carts or in, you know, various spaces in fronts of churches and village, what would have been village halls and things like that. And so we decided we would take theatre back to its roots, and we would become a travelling theatre company, which is what we did. And we've performed all sorts of places. We perform in, now one of the strangest places we performed in was in a pub, but the only space they could give us was in the fireplace. And so, luckily the fire wasn't on, but I mean, it was, but we all thought that was terribly funny to have to perform in a fireplace.
In a fireplace.
But people love it. People love it, and to say we go to them instead of them coming to us. And it's always been very successful, and and
I think you won an award. I think you won an award, didn't you?
I did, yeah. There was one. The BBC asked me to join a programme called Big Arts Week, and that was not just acting. They invited people who are in the arts, so it could be painters and singers and dancers and actors and all sorts of people, and so I said yes, I'd be happy to do that. And I worked out a programme that we would go into a primary school and spend the day with them, and in the morning we had each of the classes in turn, and each class we had 3 disciplines. We had makeup, we had lighting, and we had costume. And we demonstrated to the children how all those 3 things change the character of the person that you're in and the mood of the play. So you don't have Aladdin's cave, if you like, in brilliant sunshine. It's got to be dark and gloomy, and you don't have Lady Bracknell in Doc Martin boots, because it'd be a very odd production if you did. And and in the afternoon after lunch, we helped them put on a play that I wrote, and in the end, that play has been now performed. It still is all over the world, and I won an award for it.
Brilliant.
It's about the formation of the Chinese zodiac, and no, we've had wonderful fun with that. And again, of course, we're not allowed to do anything like that at the moment either. Never mind.
Well, of course, it's
Come back.
you know, yes, it's everything's sort of just stopped, hasn't it? And I suppose we've just got to try and do what we can. But it has affected so many people in different ways. But the theatre, of course, has been hit very hard.
It was. I mean, the theatres used to close in Shakespeare's time as well. It's not the first thing the first time this has happened. I mean, obviously I wasn't born in the war, but I think a lot of the theatres closed in the war. Not all. The Windmill being the most famous.
Yes, of course,
but yes, no. I mean, they used to close the theatres because they thought, because of the plague. And they thought, but you know, they didn't realise what the plague was carried by rats at the time. They thought it was something a bit more personal, and which I won't give a name to it here. But they were quite wrong. It was rats, as we know. But so it's not the first time in our history that we've had to have a lockdown as we are experiencing now. But with theatres and productions costing as much as they do, of course, and tickets costing a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody's losing a huge amount of money.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. You mentioned your son earlier on is a famous set designer, and
he is.
Yes, and do we know his name? What's his name? Would we have heard of it?
Well, probably not, because people like set designers and costume designers, you don't know, you know, theatre people know who they are.
Yes,
but,
of course.
But the ordinary members of the public, I mean, their names are on the programmes, but, and sometimes they do a little bit in a programme about the costume design or the set design or the lighting, whatever it is. And you read, oh, that's interesting. But so, yes, although he's well known in the theatre, he wouldn't be well known in the outside world. But
you are currently, you took up writing something like 25 years ago?
Yes, I suppose it was about as long as that, yeah. Yes, it was after my father went. Yeah.
And what, how, I know that you've been quite prolific in how many books you've written, but how many books have you actually written?
I've had published about 12, I think it is. Yes, 12 at the moment. I'm writing numbers 13 and 14 at the moment. I always have 2 to write, and if I get stuck with one, I go on to the other, and vice versa.
And what are the audience for your the audience for your books? What are they? Are they just for adults, or are they a mixture, or
a mixture? Well, they're very much either for adults or for children. I mean, you know, they don't. It's not like Dark Materials, for example, which is sort of crosses from children to adults, etc., etc. Although I think that's older children.
Yeah.
But they tend to be very much either for children or for adults. Yes.
Yeah. And you are currently illustrating a book, I believe.
Well, it's my son, Tim, who's doing the illustration. We're working on it together. I mean, I've written the story. I mean, and he's doing the drawings for me. Yes. And another friend of his who's also works in the theatre, he formats the books for Kindle for me and does things like the cover design and things like that.
Oh, brilliant! So are you writing these books under your own name, or have you got a pseudonym name that you write under?
No. I use my own name.
You use your own name.
Yes.
So you're not going to be one of these hidden hidden writers that you don't know. You don't want the people to find out who you are.
No, I'm not. That's fine. And I think if I, like J.K. Rowling wrote her detective stories under a different name because she wanted to see if somebody would take it on, not knowing it was her. And I think that was a very clever idea.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But she's a smart cookie.
Oh yes, very good. Yeah.
So we've talked about your career and in the different facets that you've been involved with. Let's find out a little bit about you as Liz Housden. I know you live in Hampshire,
Yep.
and I won't say where, unless you want to mention it. But but what about family life, Liz? Let's find out a little bit about family life. You're obviously a married lady because you've got children. Let's find out a little bit about your immediate family.
Right, I have 4 children, 2 sons and 2 daughters, and I have 8 grandchildren.
Woof, 8.
2 girls.
I've got 1. That's enough.
Yes. The eldest one is 18, and the baby will be 1 on the 1st of February. So everybody else fits in between, so to speak.
Oh, right, okay. You got an 18-year-old grandchild.
Yes.
Wow.
Of course, I was very young when,
yes,
she was
born. And what about Hubby? What did Hubby do as a career? And
well, he still works. He's working way upstairs now. He's an investment banker.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
So a useful person to have in the house.
He's hopefully useful. Yes.
Brilliant. And what about your children? What other professions are they in? I know you said 2 of your 2 daughters are artistic.
My elder daughter is a musician. She's
right, okay.
very gifted. Yeah. My younger daughter is an artist, and things like that. So she's a very sensitive girl. And my elder son, as I've said, is a set designer, and my younger son is a civil servant. So
right.
They are very different.
Yes,
really.
indeed. Yes, indeed. Yeah, brilliant. Well, Liz, look, we've got to nearly half an hour into this chat with you tonight, and I think we pretty much touched on everything that I was thinking about, and in the information that you gave me. And yes, we've had some problems with the internet from yours, where you've frozen a few times. But to be honest, it didn't really affect it, because the audio most of the time was coming through absolutely fine.
Good, fine.
So
it is what it is, our internet.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So Liz, look, can I thank you very, very much for your time, for agreeing to do this. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope you have. It's just, to me, it's just a chat with a friend to find out a little bit more about them.
It was lovely for you to ask me, Kevin, and yes, it was great fun.
Brilliant.
And I've got my glass of wine too, just in case. I've only had about 2 or 3 sips.
Yeah, well, I've got still half a cup.
Yes. Hope we'll meet up when all this bloody nonsense is finished.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we just got to keep our fingers crossed, and we, get these vaccines rolled out a bit quicker and get everybody vaccinated that's going to have them. But Liz,
like Winston Churchill in the war, wasn't it? He used to sign his letters KBO, which meant keep buggering on, and I think that's it.
Exactly. Yeah, I can't think of a better way to end this chat. Liz, thanks very much. Take care of yourself, and please stay safe, and we'll catch up at some time in the future.
And you. And thanks, Kevin, for asking.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.